Good afternoon, everyone. It's about 1:55 Eastern Time. We'll be getting started at 2 o'clock or just a couple of minutes after. We're glad to see everyone here today.
Good afternoon, Andy.
Yes, I can hear you and see you. Can you hear and now see me?
I sure can.
Okay.
We're all good.
This is good. Okay. And then Andrew will be joining us right at 2, and we have lots of people coming in. This is good. Okay. And the recording has started. And my slide deck is up, correct? You can see the slide deck?
Correct.
Excellent. Leon's here. This is good. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We're glad to see everybody joining us. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes at 2 o'clock Eastern, or maybe just a minute or two later than that. But we're glad to see everybody here today. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, Teo. We're glad you could join us today. So good to see you. Good to see Leon. I think Leon is still in Greece. I'm not sure. Teo, I will unmute your mic and open your camera as well. Give me a minute to locate you. Teo, your mic and camera are both turned on. If you'd like to enable that and just feel free to do so, please. Where is Leon? I will find Leon. There's Leon. Leon, I just enabled your mic and camera as well, so you are free to turn your camera and mic on as you see fit as well.
Thank you, Andy.
You are welcome. Are you home?
Yes,
Ah,
good old
welcome.
US of A.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So Andy, we're up to 39 right now.
Just saw something enabled. Anthony, if you would please disable, I'm assuming that's an AI tool. If you would please disable that. Thank you very much, Anthony. We'll have a recording of this posted and available. So we hadn't sorted out the permanent storage location yet for the videos, but we will have this posted and available for viewing after the fact. Andrew Burridge, I see that you're in, and I just enabled your camera and mic as well, so you are good to go.
Thank you,
Well,
Andy.
this is certainly exciting. We have 47 attendees, which quite honestly is about 45 more than I expected to see for our first effort. So this is exciting. It is 2 after 2, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Anthony, I see your note there. Let me see if I can do something here real quick. I don't have the ability to interact with your tool. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Let's see if that works, Anthony. I'm taking a guess that the stop command will work. Maybe.
Andy, I would just say go for it. Let's not worry. We'll worry about it next time.
Another 15 seconds. We'll see what I get back from Firefly from this tool. Friends, going forward, if you would just make sure that as we do these series, make sure that you disable your AI tools in this session. I know no harm was intended, but we would prefer to not have these tools enabled in these sessions. And I will look to see what I can do from my end to prohibit them from running at all going forward. Welcome to our first session for cybersecurity risk risk management and basics for parish leadership. My name is Andy Green, and I'm really excited to be here. And on behalf of the Parish Cybersecurity Subcommittee, we're happy to present the first of a 4-part series on focusing on cybersecurity basics and concerns focused primarily for parish leadership throughout the Archdiocese for the Greek Orthodox Church of America. So we are very much in a learn and adjust mode here. This is the first thing that we are first attempt at trying to run this type of thing. And so please understand that we are learning as we go, and we are very much open to your feedback as we run this 4-part series. First thing I want to do is kind of give you an overview of who we are and what we're tasked with doing. And so this session, while we are booked for an hour, we can run a little less than that. We can certainly run a little longer than that, depending on how interactive y'all want to be. We will be recording these sessions. We will be finding a permanent home to host these files so that if you have to drop for any reason and move on to something else, these sessions will be available for you. We've trapped all of your email registration details so that we can email out hosting locations for these recordings down the road, so that we can have these posted for you, and that you can share with your fellow parish council members, parish leadership, so that if they weren't able to make it, you can share these recordings with them down the road. But today our agenda is a fairly simple one. We're going to tell you a little bit about this committee, how we came to be, who we are, and then we're going to walk through some high-level overview about some concepts that we want to kind of put in front of y'all, and then we'll take questions and answers along the way. As I mentioned, this is the first time that we have run a town hall meeting like this. And quite honestly, while we know that the technology works, we've got a chat window, we've got a Q&A function built in. Please feel free to use whichever ones you would like to use. Your mics and cameras are disabled by default. And so we're happy to take your written questions in either the Q&A forum or the chat session. My entire screen is taken up with a slide deck in front of me, so I'll be bouncing back and forth and trying to monitor the questions as they come up. But my committee members will also be looking at those as well, and they're going to help me keep an eye on those as well. But if we need to, we can also enable cameras and mics as well, and we can certainly freeform in terms of trying to have a bit of a discussion, time permitting, and we can try and see if that works as well. Our objective here is to serve the community, and we're trying to figure out how that's going to work from a technology perspective with these sessions as well. So we'll experiment, and we'll see what works and what doesn't, and we'll try and refine this process going forward. So that being said, who are we and what do we do? We are the Parish Cybersecurity Subcommittee, and we sit under the auspices of Leon Andrus and the Archdiocesan Council Technology Committee. And we were formed just a few months ago. We have not been in existence very long. And we all came together because separately, the members of this committee reached out to Teo Nikolakis, who was the Archdiocese's Chief Information Security Officer at the time, and has since had additional responsibilities thrown at him. And he is now not only the CIO for the Archdiocese, but Teo is now also the Director of National Ministries, because poor Teo didn't have enough to do. His portfolio has now expanded even more. But a few of us on this committee, Andrew Burridge and Stephen Carniotis, we reached out to Teo separately, and we were asking questions from a parish perspective of what assets, what resources did the Archdiocese have in terms of how protecting parishes and parishioners and staff because we were just kind of that last mile of, we're kind of out there on our own in a sense. We need protection. We need to stand up and protect our resources, our assets, and protecting our people. And so I know that I reached out to Teo individually and was just asking questions. And Teo said, you're like the second person this week to reach out to me. And one thing led to another. And we formed a working group, and that evolved into us formalizing as a subcommittee. And just a few months ago, we were recognized and we were organized and put together, and we are now sitting as a formal subcommittee underneath the Archdiocesan Technology Committee, which is chaired by Leon Andrus, who I'm happy is here with us today. And Teo wants me to recognize and thank you for that. The presiding hierarch for the Technology Committee is His Eminence Metropolitan Daniel out of Chicago, and as I mentioned, Leon Andrus is the chair of that committee. And so our focus is to provide education, training, and resources where we can to help the parishes focus on protecting themselves. And so the committee that's been formed, I was asked to chair, and I'm happy to do that. I'm an assistant professor of cybersecurity at Kennesaw State University in Metro Atlanta. And along with Andrew Burge, who is a cybersecurity consultant in Tennessee, Stephen Carniotis, who is a bank officer and program manager in Pittsburgh. We have Father George Kalos, who is the Chancellor of the Metropolis of Pittsburgh, Father George Sahakis, who is the Chancellor of the Metropolis of Atlanta. Leon Andrus, as I mentioned, is a member of the committee as well. And then Teo is also a member of the committee as well. And so we've been working the last few months to try and get organized, try and figure out how we could best start to tackle the issue of how we can help parishes strengthen and start addressing the risks that they're facing on an everyday basis in the cybersecurity realm. And this 4-part series is our first attempt in that realm. And we envision doing things like this, putting out documentation guides to help parishes start to strengthen their overall profile. We understand that there are parishes that are fortunate, they've got resources in-house, and they're already doing some of the things that we're talking about, but there are some parishes who aren't even thinking about this at all, and that's okay, right? Because everybody's got to start somewhere. And so what we're looking to do is, wherever you are in this continuum, whether you are starting at the very beginning, you haven't thought about this at all, or maybe you've already started to address cybersecurity risk as a parish, we want to be there to help you. We want to be there to partner with you to help provide suggestions, guidance, and resources to the best of our ability to help you strengthen your posture, whatever posture you may have at the local level. So that's really what we're looking to do here. So I'm using resources here at Kennesaw State University. Some of you may have noticed that the confirmation that you got when you joined the series here is that you got an email confirmation from, I believe, something at Kennesaw State University. That's where I work, and this is part of my service obligation, and they're happy to support me in this effort. But I do have to put the disclaimer out that everything that we talk about today is the joint work of this committee, and that everything that we talk about today does not represent the official views, positions, or policies of my employer, Kennesaw State University, or the university system of Georgia. I always have to put that out. So if you join us for future portions of this series, you will hear this same disclaimer time and time again, but I do have to put that out. But I am thankful to my employer in the university system for making these resources available for us to be able to do this really on a nationwide basis. So we're very thankful for that. And with that, before we get started, I would simply like to start with this. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Amen. Because I think it's very important that while we talk about very technical issues and we talk about things that can be unpleasant, right? We're talking about being attacked and being potential victims of criminals and threat actors. we always have to remember that first and foremost, our mission is to proclaim the gospel of Christ, and that we are here to teach and spread our faith. And that while we have to sometimes get down in the weeds and we have to deal with some very unpleasant people, and we have to deal with some very unpleasant actions that are committed against us and our parishioners, we should never lose sight of the fact that our mission is to bring people to the kingdom of God, that we're here to proclaim our faith and to proclaim the gospel. And I think that as long as we remember that, as long as we stay grounded in our faith and in our mission, that we're going to be much more capable of executing on whatever tasks that we need to do to protect the faithful, to protect our parishes, and to not lose sight of that fact. And I tell you, sometimes this is my world. I teach this stuff every day. I see the stories. I get phone calls from victims. I get emails from victims, and it's a struggle sometimes to not get really angry and to not get really bitter. And so, my personal challenge to everybody is to not get lost in the weeds as we think about the fact that we're constantly under attack in some way, shape, or form from people who want to take things from us, from people who want to take advantage of our good nature, of the very fact that we are by our very definition, our mission is that we want to draw people in, and that makes us more likely, more susceptible to being taken advantage of potentially. And so we always have to be mindful of the fact that yes, we are open, yes, we are welcoming, but we also have to take these very necessary steps to protect our assets from those who would potentially want to do us harm and do damage to our church and our parishioners. So when we start to think about the things that as a parish we've got to think about protecting, there are some obvious things that we need to think about, right? We've got to protect systems and data that have been entrusted to us at the parish level. And we've always got to strike that balance. There is no such thing as being perfectly secure, right? I joke with my students when I teach, the most secure system that I can build is one that is not attached to any computer network anywhere, that is encased in concrete, that I then take out to the middle of the ocean and drop and put at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Perfectly secure, no threat actor is ever going to get to it, but it's not usable. And so when we talk about securing these things, we have to strike that balance between usability and protection, because at the end of the day, all of the people who are doing work on behalf of our churches, of our parishes, have to be able to get that work done. And we have to be careful that we do not lock down and protect our systems in such a way that the people who need to get access to these systems and these data points to get their work done can't do their work, because human nature being what it is, when they need to get access to that data and they're frustrated by the very controls we put into place to protect these systems from threat actors, humans are going to find workarounds for them. And then all of a sudden, the very controls that we've put into place, they're going to work around them, and now they're not effective. And so we always have to strike that balance. And so we always have to keep in mind that the folks who are doing the work, right, our priests, our staff, our volunteers, right, and even our church visitors who are coming, who are curious about the faith, right, we have to always try and strike that balance between protection as much as possible, while ensuring that the people who need to get access to these systems and data can do so in order to do whatever it is that they need to do for their daily tasks for the good of the church. Right? So there are a lot of ways that we could go about trying to put together all of these guidelines and all this data that's out there, right? There, you could look at this and say, Green, I have no idea. I don't even know where to begin. And so there are a lot of different cybersecurity frameworks and guidelines and documents that are out there. If you just go out and run a Google search, you will see all kinds of guidelines and documents out there. The baseline that we choose to work with with our subcommittee, we rely on NIST, the National Institute of Science and Technology, NIST, and then CISA, and I forget, I'm drawing a blank because it's just, I forget what CISA stands for. But these are both U.S. government agencies. The Center for Infrastructure, and I'm drawing a blank. Pardon me, my apologies. I only teach this stuff every day. But these are both federal agencies. Well, it's right there on the slide. I should just read the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, CISA. These are federal agencies that are tasked with providing guidance and helping to protect critical infrastructure in the United States. CISA primarily focuses on protecting federal agencies. NIST is also tasked with providing guidance to protect federal agencies, but they both produce general guidelines, documentation, and guidance that can be applied to a number of organizations in a number of different settings. And the good news is, because they're federal agencies, they produce this documentation, and they release it to the general public free of charge. And so it's a really good price point. It's great quality documentation, thoughtful, well done. It is built by experts in combination with public comment, and it's top quality stuff. And so as a subcommittee, when we start to put together our guidelines and our recommendations for parishes about recommendations on various topics, we rely heavily and we pull from documentation and guidance from both NIST and CISA to distill all of that. Because trust me when I tell you, these documents are heavy reading, and we would never go to a parish council and say, you need to read the NIST cybersecurity framework, for example. That is just nothing we would ever expect you to do, right? That's the kind of thing where we distill that kind of guidance down, and then we provide guidance and documentation to parishes that we hope is actionable for you. And we're moving in that direction, and we'll be producing documentation, in the coming weeks and months that we hope will be of use to you at a practical level. That you can actually implement at the local level. But again, all of this is free. All of this is available to the general public, and that's what we're going to leverage as we produce our documentation going forward. So when you start to think about what you have to protect at the parish level, there's some things that you may not have ever thought about, right? There are things that you collect at the parish level on a daily basis that, if you don't stop to think about it, you may not understand the importance and the value potentially of the data that we collect at the parish level, right? If you stop and think about things like membership records, think about the types of data that you collect there: first and last name, date of birth, email addresses, phone numbers. You collect financial details potentially about your parishioners. You collect photographs about family members, right? That is data that, in the wrong hands, can be leveraged by threat actors to engage in attacks against both the parish and parishioners, right? And so when churches take possession of this data, we've got to think about, this is data that we need to protect. Financial data, not just about parishioners and donation data, but also banking account information, both for parishioners and payroll data for staff, for priests, things of that nature. And then if you are issuing payments to vendors who do work on behalf of the church, those systems as well, money inflow and money outflow. These are critical choke points and points of interest that threat actors, bad guys, are looking to take advantage of. And so these are sensitive points of data, systems that we need to think about protecting, and how are we accessing them, and how are we controlling access to that. Moving on to the operational side of things, believe it or not, some of the more mundane things, like, for example, when you run an event at a church, do you run registration? Do you have a registration site for that? What data are you collecting about that? Where are you hosting that data? How long are you holding on to that data? Sermons. Some priests are very sensitive about their sermons getting out. For priests who are engaging in any kind of pastoral counseling, any kind of notes that they're taking about those pastoral counseling sessions, that's sensitive information that unfortunately can be used to engage in blackmail activities against parishioners. And that has happened in other settings, in multiple locations, both here in the United States and abroad, unfortunately. Any type of information about parishioners that is sensitive, anything that could be not necessarily financial, but just something that could be embarrassing or could be used to convince or motivate a parishioner to do something that they might not otherwise want to do. Whether, generally speaking, we would describe that as blackmail. That type of data can be used against our parishioners. And so when the church has that information, they've got an obligation to figure out, how am I going to protect that? Where am I keeping it? Who might want to get at it? How do I stop them from getting at it? Right? Because at the end of the day, this all leads to that last instance here that I'm talking about, which is reputational harm or damage to the parish or the church or the priest, because, or the staff member. Well, you didn't protect my data. There's a loss of trust. There's a loss of relationship there, or damage or harm to the relationship between the parishioner and the priest. Or if a church is attacked, for example, a website is compromised and there's some salacious information put out on the church website, all of a sudden the church itself could take its reputation within the community can take a hit, can take damage from whatever information that threat actor group put on the church's website. So all of these things lead to things that parish leadership need to think about. How are we protecting these assets from attack? What are we doing to protect that kind of thing? Right. And so that leads us to, how are we educating our community, right? And within our church community, you've got several segments of communities of interest who need to be educated in different ways. Why? Because threat actors will attack them in different ways to achieve different goals. Broadly speaking, when we look at data breaches across the country, 68% of these breaches in some way, shape, or form involve some form of human element. Now, what does that mean? Broadly speaking, that means that the threat actor did not break into or compromise a computer, right? They didn't become a hacker and break into a computer. Typically, what we're seeing most often is a threat actor convinces a human to do something on a computer on their behalf. And we call that, broadly speaking, social engineering, which is where I convince you to take an action that you would normally not have otherwise taken, that will allow me as the bad guy to maybe get access to your system. I don't have to break into that computer necessarily. I don't have to physically steal the computer. I convince you maybe to install this bad piece of software that will give me access to your computer. Or I convince you that you need to give me your password so that I can log in because I'm from help desk support for some piece of software, right? And so the need for me to be able to break into a computer, it's not necessarily needed because I convince humans to do my dirty work for me, and then I'm in the environment, and then I'm able to do the things that I need to do to achieve my objective as a bad guy, as a criminal, as a threat actor. And so one of the many ways that we go about doing these things as threat actors, right? And again, one of my responsibilities is to think like a bad guy, right? My job is to think like a criminal. I think like a threat actor, because if I don't think like that, then I can't help prepare the people around me to defend from these types of actions. So when I say I wear many different hats, right? I think in terms of how do I attack so that I can think about how I defend. So I slip very easily from offense to defense in that regard. So when I say we, you never know really with me which we I'm talking about. Sometimes I'm a bad guy, sometimes I'm a good guy. But when we talk about how do we train and educate our people within the church to be aware of these types of social engineering attacks, right? There are certain types of things that we can train our people to look for. Most times the attack is going to come in the form of what we call a phishing attack, phishing. And when we look at that fish, it's an email that will come into your inbox, and it will look a lot like, "Hey, I need some help. Hey, I'm reaching out to you from tech support. Hey, I'm reaching out to you from your bank. Hey, I'm reaching out to you from your credit card company. Hey, I'm the vendor who just did work for the church last week on this project." And they're all, no matter what form that looks like, the end game is that they're trying to convince you of the fact that they are this person or this organization, when in actuality they're not. And so that email may have what we call an indicator. Something doesn't look right, something doesn't feel right about it, and typically it will have something like a spelling error. Um, the wording will be wrong, it'll be just off. Right here in the United States, typically we communicate in a certain dialect, a certain way, but threat actors who come from another country, who aren't familiar with how we speak in colloquial English terms, will use language that just doesn't feel right. And so you could see a typo, a spelling error, or language that just feels, off in that sense. So that's one possible indicator that there is something wrong with that phishing, with that email that's sitting in your inbox. Another thing to possibly look for is, what email address did it come from? If you know that your vendor is abc.com, for example, but the email address came from Gmail or Outlook, and you know that you've never received an email from the vendor from that domain, that's fishy. Why are they emailing me from a different email address than they've used in the past? Another thing that phishing attacks will look to do is to create what we call a sense of urgency. They're looking to put psychological pressure on the victim to get this done right away, because the longer you have as the victim to think about it, the less likely you are to fall for the attack. And so they're looking to create a sense of urgency. This has to be done right away. I've got to get this done right away, or there's going to be problems. There's going to be trouble. A frequent type of attack we've seen is where priests have been their identity has been spoofed, and an email has been sent to the parish administrator purporting to be from the church priest, saying, "I'm in an email. I'm in a meeting. I need to give gift cards to the people I'm meeting with as a way to say thank you. I can't get them now. Would you please go buy a series of gift cards? And then I will make sure that you get reimbursed when I'm out of the meeting." And it needs to be done right now because they're going to leave this afternoon. And so they create that sense of urgency. This has got to be done right now. And then they're trying to leverage that sense of implied trust because, well, of course, who doesn't trust an email from their priest, right? And so they're leveraging a couple of things there. Everybody trusts an email from their priest, and then it's got to be done right away. And so it's these kinds of things that happen, right? And I've talked about a few of these things already. And there's the last one right there, right? These are all scenarios, various scenarios that we have seen, where the end goal here in each one of these scenarios is that these threat actors are looking to convince the victim that in one way or one form or another, you need to send money to us. In this scenario, that's what they're looking to do. They're looking to convince you that you need to pay this invoice or you need to buy those gift cards. And then the next step in the gift card scam is, okay, next, would you turn the gift card over and scrape the back off and then send me the full gift card number so I can share it with them. Send me a photo using your camera on your cell phone. Send me a photo of them so I can give them to them so they can send them and spend them right away. And then the next thing you know, those gift cards are gone and spent, and it was never your priest. And that happens more often than you would think. Um, I see a comment there. Let me bounce over to that real quick. Um, the question is, how do they get emails to people you know or have historically emailed with? So that's a great question, Father Demetrios. It can happen any number of ways. And so the primary way that these threat actors will get these emails is one of two ways. One, um, emails are readily available on what we call the dark web, right? You hear a lot of news reporting and news articles about the so-called dark web, which on the surface sounds like this very scary place where only criminals lurk. In actuality, it is nothing more than a marketplace where criminals buy and sell lots of things like email addresses, for example. And so when you hear about these large data breaches that happen at companies across the country and across the globe, uh, there are marketplaces where threat actors can go and buy email addresses and names for pennies on the dollar. And they will spend a few $100s to get tens of thousands of email addresses. And then they will spend a few minutes cross compiling those email addresses against other pieces of information that they've collected from other places. The point being that if they choose to target a particular organization with just a few minutes of time, a few $100s being spent, they can then, from that entire list of email addresses that they have bought, they can narrow it down to just a few hundred that are relative to that specific organization. In this context, this church, this parish. And so then they throw out what I call wide casting, right? This is a phishing attack, which means they're throwing a wide net. And if they can reach maybe 150 parishioners, for example, and convince maybe 10 of them to do this on behalf of their priest, that's a good day's work from a criminal's perspective. If they choose to specifically target, say, a parish administrator, they've got to be a bit more careful, a bit more tailored with that attack. So it really just depends on the mindset of the threat actor who's engaging in this specific attack. Does that help? Father Demetrios, does that help? Okay, good. And then I see Basil. This is I can't really focus in on that. Yes. And Stephen, yes, correct. Yep. That's exactly right. And the other thing that can happen is that a parishioner's email account could actually get individually compromised as well and just leveraged, and email addresses could get harvested and utilized out of that as well. It literally just depends. You know, threat actors, criminals, they're crafty. They are smart and they are motivated, and they are perversely motivated to be as efficient as they can. They are no different than us. For them, this is their career. And so just like you and I have figured out very smart ways to work on a daily basis, right? The old saying of, work smart, not hard. Criminals are no different in that regard. And so they work efficiently. They figure out very smart, low effort ways to cast as wide a net as possible, to be as efficient as possible with their attacks, to strike as many people as possible for the conversion rate to be as high as possible with as low effort as possible. That is human nature, unfortunately, and it is a perverse incentive system, but it is exactly how it works. I am sure that for those of you, for the parish administrators and the priests who have joined the call today, I'm sure that if I were to ask you to raise your hands electronically to this question, how many of you have received an email asking you to pay an invoice for printer toner cartridges or support contracts for fill in the blank, and didn't take 4 seconds, and now I'm seeing how many hands going up, right? Again, those are a variation of a phishing attack, right? Exactly, right there. The hands are going up. I'm up to what, 7, 8, 9 already. And so once again, those are threat actors looking to phish, in this context, not just parishes. That's a kind of attack that goes on nationwide, because they know that if they can just catch, out of 100, if they can catch 3% of people who are authorized to pay an invoice, and they catch them at the wrong time, and they're not paying attention because the cognitive workload of that employee, they've got 78 other things going on, and they see this invoice, and they know they've got printers in the office, and they know that toners do, and they don't stop to question the legitimacy of the invoice. They just need to clear their inbox for the day. They're like, yep, gonna pay that invoice. Don't stop to think about it. Don't question it. That money's out the door, right? And at the end of the day, that invoice to the organization may be, a couple of $100. It's not going to rise to the level of, unfortunately, law enforcement chasing it down. But from the threat actor's perspective, again, do that math. Sample size of 100. If I get 3 people to bite on a $200 invoice, at $600 a day, tax-free, leaving the country, it's not bad work if I can get it. And then you expand the scope, and so you see how the math works from that perspective, right? So that's their model. That's how it works on their side of the fence. So from our perspective, we just need to be mindful of these things. And the complicating factor here is that 5 years ago, we didn't have to worry about AI cleaning up the grammar on these emails, right? You could almost look at the first 3 sentences, or maybe sometimes even the first 3 words in these emails, and realize that's a phish. Now with AI and threat actors using AI tools to write these emails for them, the grammar's perfect, and that makes it much more difficult for us as the victims to be mindful of that. But the onus is still on us to be looking for these things, because they can and are coming in our inbox day in and day out. How many of you are receiving have received the SMS text messages about the toll scams? You got caught driving on a toll booth, right? And all the hands are going up again, right? Same thing, right? These are all just scams that are coming in, and we need to be mindful of them, right? So I'm going to move on here. So again, how do we address this, right? This is one of these things where, from the parish's perspective, a good healthy dose of, are we sure about that? It is always in order. There is nothing wrong with questioning an invoice. There's nothing wrong with taking a beat in a minute. And I know that we're in a culture of, I've got to get this done right away. Father George needed this done 20 minutes ago. I've got to get this done. I've got to get the bulletin put together. Greek school starts in half an hour. We've got Cafe Neon going on upstairs, right? And I'm just thinking about stuff at my church, right? And so we've got this pressure on us. But slowing it down and reaching out and confirming these things, what we call out of band, to make sure that what we're seeing in front of us is actually legitimate. And when I say out of band, that means picking up the phone, right? Calling that known trusted vendor. Ted, when questioning an invoice, do not respond to the email. That is correct. Do not reply to that email and say, hey, is this legit? Because I guarantee you the threat actor will tell you, absolutely, you can trust me. Yes, you should pay that invoice. That will 100% happen. But pick up the phone, make a phone call, confirm that invoice that came in from that vendor. Hey, we just got this invoice from you for this work. Okay. Right. Don't trust the number that's in the email that you just got. Right. If you don't have a number saved already, look them up. Right. Pick up that phone, take the extra 5 to 10 minutes, confirm. Right. Confirm with, if you've got on the parish council level, if you've got a parish council member who's in charge of handling facilities and working with vendors, call the parish council member and say, hey, did you authorize this work? Did we do this work? Because sometimes, if you're the parish administrator, you don't necessarily know what's going on, right? Especially if you're in a large parish where you've got a lot of work going on, you may not know at the moment that work was done. You may just see the invoice and that's the first time. Confirm that invoice. It's okay. Question it, because you would much rather take that 10 minutes and confirm that $5,000 invoice is legit than to find out 3 days later from that parish council member, we didn't do that work on the refrigerator in the kitchen. I don't know what you're talking about. Because I can guarantee you, by the time that happens, that $5,000 has crossed multiple national borders and you will never get it back. Right? Teo's dropped a comment. Each parish should have written financial controls and procedures for paying invoices. He is absolutely right. We should have written policies in place to handle all of this, and they should be reviewed on an annual basis. Absolutely right. Okay. He is absolutely right. Okay. There are some training courses going out to CISA. Again, free resources that are available for you to use. And we've identified 4 courses here that we would recommend that you have your staff and your priests and anybody who's in a position of being able to authorize payments and things like that take. The Cyber Essentials course. Don't wake up to a ransomware attack. Well, that's a bad day for everybody. Understanding DNS attacks. That's a more technical course for your IT staff. And defending internet accessible systems. Again, that's a more technical course for your IT staff. Your Cyber Essentials. That's a good general course for everybody to take. But the last 3 are a bit more technical, but those are free resources that are available for anybody to take. You just have to sign up at the CISA website at the URL that we've got there, and go through those courses. And again, free for everybody to take. Password hygiene. God, we could do an entire presentation on this. About 40% of all breaches happen because people have either used weak or reused credentials. And what I mean by that is you use the same password on multiple accounts. I'm not going to ask because this will actually make me cry. So this question is rhetorical. You know who you are. How many of you use the same password across multiple accounts? I'm just going to kind of stare into the camera a little bit. Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. Please don't raise your hand. Don't. But if you're doing that, please stop. Because that's one of the big problems is using the same password across multiple accounts. And also using weak passwords, right? So how do we get around that? Current guidance, right? Use passwords that are at least 8 characters, right? Avoid using personal information for your passwords. Okay. Believe it or not, for those of you who are responsible on the IT side for setting password minimums, Ted, you're stealing my thunder, buddy. Hold on. That's the next slide. Believe it or not, NIST now has guidance that you do not put password rules in place requiring upper, lower numbers and symbols. Okay. And they also do not recommend, NIST does no longer recommend forced password resets on a periodic basis. They only recommend that you force password resets when you have evidence of a password or account compromise. Okay. We also do not require password hints and no security questions. However, we also recommend that in conjunction with passwords, you implement multi-factor authentication. We're going to get to that here shortly, right? We do recommend the use of password management tools. These tools can generate unique passwords for all accounts and can store what we call one-time password codes. Those are those 6-digit numeric codes that you need to use in addition to your username and password. That is the basis of what we call multi-factor authentication. Okay. These tools are out there. There are a number of possible solutions. We actually recommend the use of 1Password, and parishes can go out and pick up business packages at the 1Password site, 1password.com/pricing. And we recommend that churches set up a password policy for all church systems. And we recommend that churches set a password policy and educate staff on how to create and manage passwords. Because again, the idea here is that we want to get away from password reuse. We want to get away from weak passwords, and wherever possible, we want to implement multi-factor authentication. And that is the use of your username and password, something you know, along with something you have in most cases. And by now, I think most folks are familiar with what multi-factor is. It is that thing that you are sent in addition to your username and password that you type in. It is something that you are texted, right? You get that 6-digit code, or you get that code from your authenticator app. The effectiveness of multi-factor authentication in stopping compromised attacks on user accounts is just nothing short of incredible. Google did a study that shows that in their instance, when they implemented multi-factor authentication on all Google employee accounts, that it blocked 99.9% of automated attacks against Google employee accounts. And it's a game changer. It can be difficult to implement, but in this case, it is worth the effort. And so when you implement strong password usage with multi-factor, it shrinks your attack window from something like this down to something like this. It does not shrink you to zero, but it does take you down. And so our recommendation is that whenever possible, you enforce multi-factor on whatever accounts you manage for the church, that you mandate it wherever possible, and that you implement the use of authenticator apps like 1Password, Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator. The last two are free to use. They're available in the marketplaces for your phones. 1Password has one built in. I use that. I'm also now using Microsoft Authenticator for my workplace, and so these are all available. There is some skill and time and effort to get your staff and your priests ramped up on that. But it's worth the effort. I see we're having a very spirited conversation in the text here. Yes, so I'm seeing some pushback on multi-factor. Texting is not real time. That is correct. Multi-factor authentication is difficult for accounts used by multiple people at a church. Yes, that is all correct. For accounts that are shared, that is, difficult to deal with. I'm seeing, and this is a great conversation to have. There are solutions around, particularly with sharing multi-factor on joint accounts. I understand that in a perfect world, we would always preach this notion of one user per account, but the reality is there are ministries where multiple people need access to a common email account. And so the reality is you do have situations where multiple people driving a ministry are sharing access to a mailbox. And so it's not, from our perspective as a committee, it's not our job to tell parishes how they must do business. It's our role as the committee to help provide you with solutions to deal with real world problems that you're facing. I'll give a prime example. We have at my local parish, we have ministries where multiple people are sharing access to a mailbox. We're going to have to slay that multi-factor problem once I implement it across our parish later this year. And I'm going to tackle it, and I'm going to bring that knowledge forward to the committee, and we're going to share that across the country because that's the reality, right? And so I think, and that goes back to my slide earlier on, right? Which is we have to find that balance. When we start striking this notion of security, and we have to take an absolute tone, we start to create that friction and that rub, and then people start to say, I don't care about security. This gets in the way of my work. And so we always have to be mindful as leaders in the parish. We have to strike the right tone and find the right balance. So I am very happy to see this conversation because it highlights one of the very first slides I put up today. We're responsible as leaders within our parishes to strike that tone. And so that's my challenge to everybody, is that we have to strike that balance. We have to balance security against usability. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing this already. So let me move on because I know we've got like 2 minutes left. We've talked about a lot of this. So really, we've talked about phishing and spoofing. We've talked about BEC already. We've got just a couple minutes left. I'm going to leave the technical stuff out for now because I think, and references, we're good with that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And now you're all forced to, see my face, and my apologies for that. I think we've done a fairly decent job of addressing questions. Do we have any questions that we did not address during the presentation? Did we catch everything, guys?
We did. I would unmute everyone so that we can get maybe a couple minutes of
Let me see if I can.
Q&A.
Tell you what, Father Demetrios, I see a few folks. I see a couple of hands raised. Are they just up from earlier, or do you have questions? I'm not sure if I can unmute en masse. But what I can do is just unmute as we go. Father Demetrios, your hand is still up, and I see you as first. Do you have a question, or is that just up from earlier? Up from earlier. Okay. All right. I will lower your hand. Okay. The messenger, I see your hand is up. Is that just up from earlier? Don't know. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Up from earlier. Okay, I'll lower your hand then. Okay, so let me do that. I'm going to lower your hand. If you've got a question, raise your hand, and I can unmute you and enable your camera on the fly. And then we can just open the floor up for questions.
I see a question in the chat from Melody regarding Facebook streaming services. And yes, it's best practice to separate any personal
Yeah.
accounts, email, social media, YouTube. Don't mix personal use with professional
Right.
use in the parish setting. So if there is a streaming service, like our church parish, we have a YouTube channel for the parish, and they're all there. We save all the liturgies, and people can view them after the fact. So it's always best to separate them.
Correct.
Good catch, Andy. Or Andrew.
Ted, I will unmute you and turn your camera on. Okay, go ahead, Ted.
Sure. And on the YouTube, realize that you could be put in as an administrator or a manager on the account. So the church would have its account, and you could also have your account that would work on there. So you get to have the best of both worlds, but it should all be on the church account.
Melanie's saying, but then you have multiple people with password, including the visiting sound or audio guy helping with sound and streaming.
Absolutely. So we have 3 or 4 people on there, and each person is identified, and they're identified as a manager on the account, and the church is the owner of the account. So you're able to clearly have separate passwords, and you make it so the managers are not able to delete videos, but only the owner can delete videos. So someone doesn't go in by accident and all of a sudden, Andrew, kill your entire archive. I mean, I've got 1,900 videos of services that are up there. So
Right.
we're very, very careful of those.
Good questions. I have like zero expertise in the YouTube and video streaming, so I'm glad y'all have that. That's good. What other questions do we have? Mike says it takes a cultural shift 100%. It does. And starting with the conversation is where it begins. And so that's why I'm very thankful that we're having these questions and these conversations. It's, you know, it's like I said at the beginning, some parishes are going to be starting, you know, here, and some parishes are starting here, but we're all moving in the same direction. And as long as we're thinking about it and we're moving along, that's a good day's work for everybody, as far as I'm concerned.
So Melanie just put a comment out here. Texting for financial verification. People have to use their own cell phone numbers because the church number is a landline, and priest doesn't want his cell phone involved. So that's correct.
Sometimes, yeah.
You can use MFA on an account to do verification, but it should be a church-owned account. It should not be a personal account. Especially for financial verification, you want to separate that.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where the benefit of password managers that actually have OTP functionality embedded in the application is so helpful. And you're managing that from the enterprise perspective, because you can turn that on, turn that off, take it from somebody, enable it on somebody else, and have all that functionality controlled centrally, precisely for situations like that. So, Father Demetrios, you're welcome. Church office, would it be okay if I share the recording with our parish? Absolutely. As I'd mentioned at the outset, this is recorded. We're going to record all of these, the remaining series. We have not sorted out a permanent location yet, but once we do, I'll email everybody whose registration details we captured today about where we're storing it, and this will be out there for everybody to look at. This and the next 3 in the sequence as well.
Okay.
Terry, when you send mass community emails, always do blind copies. Do not share email addresses. Yes, please. That is absolutely yes. Just yes. Don't need to say anything more than that. Yes.
Teo, you got your hand up.
I'm sorry, Teo. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
That's
You don't need
okay.
to raise your hand. You just talk. You're the boss, man. We all report
You're
to you,
funny.
so.
You're funny. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who's joined. This is going to be the first of several things that'll be coming from the committee. We also are in the process, and I really want to thank Andrew Burridge of finalizing a draft of a parish cybersecurity guide. So the item that I wanted to lean into is number 1. please try and be as creative as possible and lean out in areas where you might find stumbling blocks. So to the point where, the parish priest doesn't want to use his personal cell phone for MFA, really the option should then be, there is an option with cell phone carriers to have a second line at a discount, sometimes $10 a month or $5 a month. That is just a voice and text line that you can add to a cell phone. I know, for example, T-Mobile does digits. AT&T has something similar. You can also do this through a Google service and others. So please always try and find the right way to do something. And if not, the committee and the team here is available to be a resource for you as well. And it's also important that the parish have control over these things. God forbid someone leaves, becomes disgruntled, whatever it may be. We want to ensure that fiduciary responsibility is always maintained at the parish level. So that's sort of, I think, bucket one. Bucket two, and Jamil leaned in on this, our best practice, our recommended best practice, is that mailing lists should be controlled by central systems, not on people's computers. So therefore, we advocate very strongly that you should use a centralized list server where all committee names and addresses should be populated into. The Archdiocese, through the Department of Internet Ministries, provides we do free. First of all, free. We absorb all the costs for Constant Contact's first 2 tiers to provide your parish with the proper controls, and we provide a 50% discount off the most advanced Constant Contact tier. So we want to make that available to you. And I'll close my remarks in saying cyber hygiene, to put this into context, really is like the spreading of something. At my level, I get a communique almost monthly about an incident that's happened in a parish, gift cards, text messaging, whatever it may be. But I want to put this into context. There was one incident where it was an invitation scam, where maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, where this pretend invitation comes to a party, you click on the link and it automatically compromises your account. Yahoo accounts in particular were vulnerable to this. Mm-hmm. This spread because it activates your contacts. What these cyber criminals are after is your contact list. So that means that our cyber hygiene as parishioners, we are all part of a phalanx. So the AHEPA sending out email addresses, or the AHEPA president maintaining things on his computer, the Philoptochos president maintaining on her computer. When they get hacked and attacked, it opens up hundreds or thousands of other vectors of attack. So back to that invitation. My home parish was hit with an invitation. 5 other parishioners were hit within a matter of 10 minutes. And then I got a call the next day from 2 other parishes because we're all networked together. So we really have to lean in as a team, as a community across the country to realize that hardening our parishioner infrastructure, our parishioners, and educating them is as fundamental to the safety and security all the way up to the Archbishop and the Ecumenical Patriarch. So we have to take that seriously. Thank you, Andy.
You are welcome, and thank you for those words. We are 8 minutes over. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Great conversation. Thank you all for being here. I'm poking around to get the next date for our next event because I don't have it off the top of my head. Can one of y'all help me? October what? October 2nd? Okay. So we'll get an announcement out about that. That'll be the next in the series. We hope to see everyone there for that. If you have any feedback, I'm going to go ahead and just drop my my email address in the chat. And so please just feel free to drop any feedback that you have to me at that email address, and we'll certainly take it on board. Thank you all for your time. And we will get it. Invite is it October 1st, October 2nd?
October 1st. My bad.
October 1st.
October 1st. Okay. Yeah, October 1st at 2:00 Eastern. And then we look forward to seeing everybody then. Thank you all, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.